What's up, NASCAR Authentics fans? David Land here, bringing you another NASCAR Diecast review. Today, we are taking a look at 4 Hendrick Motorsports Darlington Throwback cars. Now, if you may notice the gigantic white label on these cars, these are a Toys R Us exclusive set. They were given to me by my friend Race Day 2011, who found them and subsequently had a very hard time buying them because you may notice that there is not the protective box that came with these cars. That's because whichever employee put these on the shelf, they said, well, god darn, these are in a box. I'm going to take them out of the box and put them on the shelf. Well, when that happened, when Rob tried to buy them, guess what they said? There's not a barcode on these, sir. You can't buy them. So, needless to say, Robbie went through a lot of trouble for this. So, be sure to let him know how thankful you are that he went through all that trouble to get us this diecast review. So, all the packages are the same. So, we're going to do a real quick look here at the Kasey Kahne car, and you can just see what it looks like. I mean, it's a very generic box. It also says very clearly on the back, not to be sold individually. But clearly, the Toys R Us where Rob bought this did not adhere to those standards. So, we have 4 Hendrick Motorsports cars to take a look at. So let's not waste any more of your time. Let's take a look at the Hendrick Motorsports Darlington Throwbacks. So here is the first car in the wave, Jimmie Johnson's Lowe's number 48 Throwback. I cannot remember if this is a throwback to an actual car. In the past, Lowe's has kind of been 50-50 on whether they do their throwbacks, kind of throwing it back to the store or throwing it back to a race car. I know last year they did a Dale Earnhardt car that wasn't a Dale Earnhardt car. I feel like they threw it back to a car that looked like a Dale Earnhardt car but wasn't driven by Dale Earnhardt. I seem to remember that. And this one, the paint scheme doesn't come off immediately as something that I recognize. So I honestly can't tell you whether or not this is an official tribute. And again, I don't remember hearing anything about which car driver team this was throwing it back to, so it's very possible it's just like a Lowe's generic throwback, which again in the past they have done. But regardless, it's a pretty nice looking car. I do like the combination of the bright blue and the white. The only kind of criticism I have of it is the fact the gold I'm not a big fan of. Aside from that, the white wheels and everything looks quite nice. But another thing, aside from the gold, which obviously it kind of works on the car, is the fact that they have repacked this like in 3 or 4 different waves. So you're not going to have a hard time finding this, even if you don't find the set at Toys R Us. This comes with a plastic hood, as in fact, all the cars in this wave come with, and it does have a brand new NASCAR Authentics logo on the back. I think that's the first time I've seen a hood with one of those. I can't remember if one of the earlier waves had a hood like that, but it's very nice to look at. Unfortunately, no magnets or anything to kind of give you that added value. But yeah, so it's like sparkly gold paint on the 48, and in fact, sparkly gold paint all the way through on this car. And then there's the Lowe's logo on the back, something very, very small there that we're probably not going to be able to read. Let's see if we can read it. I can't read that, so yeah, if anybody's got a 124 of this, yeah, just let me know in the comments. We do have some Monster Energy Race Winners stickers, which is interesting considering that Monster Energy doesn't really like to be on the Hendrick cars, or vice versa. And here's the contingency sponsors that are gone for next year. Yeah, if you haven't heard, they're done. Oh, how lovely. Well, that's Jimmie Johnson's Lowe's 48. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. And is it actually a throwback to something? Because I kind of feel stupid if it actually is a throwback to something, and I've completely screwed it up. So let's take a look at the next car in the wave. So, the man who has taken up the mantle of Redneck Jesus after one Denny Hamlin punterinoed him into turn 3 at Martinsville Speedway. But that was this scheme ran, of course, prior to that little altercation. However, there's still were a lot of Chase Elliott fans prior to that. But regardless, this is an interesting paint scheme. Again, I don't know the specifics of the paint scheme, the driver it's throwing back to. I almost want to say it's Tiny Lund. I feel like hearing something about that. It might be a Benny Parsons or something. Benny Parsons or Tiny Lund seem to be the names that come into my mind. But I don't know if it's either of those drivers, so clearly I'm going to get murdered in the comments for getting it wrong. But regardless, it's a very nice looking scheme. I think it's maybe one of the better cars in this wave, paint scheme wise, because it just works. The NAPA logo in blue looks very nice, and the light blue is a color you don't really see all that much, but it's one of those ones that's like, yeah, I like race cars in that color. So definitely a good one to add to your collection, and obviously it's an Elliott car, so it's going to sell. I think this one also is available in several waves of NASCAR Authentics, so if you don't have the Toys R Us, don't worry, you'll be able to find it. Interesting that like the NAPA logo is kind of sparkly. I don't know if that's going to pick up too well on the camera, but you can see a little bit of sparkle in there. So interesting to have like a metal flake paint for the NAPA logo. As well, I'm sure, on the car. Let's take a look here. Nope, we don't have any sparkles. Maybe. I'm looking. Yeah, we do have some sparkles. I looked real close, and we did have some sparkles on the paint. They still have this weird, like, dealio with the secondary color on the Chase Elliott cars. They've been doing this all year long, and it's just like, you know, on the regular car, this is a yellow stripe, and it's just weird. Very weird. And then you've got a big old Chase Elliott logo, or Chase Elliott autograph, on the side of the car, rather up on the A post, which is interesting. You go down through the side of the car, obviously, old Mountain Dew logo, regular Sun Energy logo, because Sun Energy was nowhere near, I think that company was formed within the last few years, so they don't really have a lot of company history to throw back to, obviously. As we go down through the rest of the car, very nice looking. I do like the red. It's just an interesting contrast for 24. The 24 car. I'm trying to think back. I think there was like a Charlie Brown, Jeff Gordon car one year, and I think that's about the only time the 24 ever ran in kind of a powder blue, a really light shade of blue, other than this. So it's kind of interesting. I do like it quite a bit. This is definitely. I would definitely say this is probably one of the stronger cars from the wave, but they're all pretty strong. Let's talk about another strong car as we transition into the next car. So the next car we are going to take a look at is Kasey Cain's number 5 Great Clips Throwback. This is throwing it back to one of the cars that Hendrick Motorsports kind of started their racing career with, or at least started to have their real success with. This car was driven by drivers like Brett Bodine and Ricky Rudd specifically. The sponsor was a jean sponsor. It wasn't Wrangler though. It was like the other one, Levi's, I believe. If I'm thinking, I think it was. It was like Levi Garrett or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Again, this was a poorly researched video, and you should totally leave a dislike on it because I suck. I'm terrible. But regardless, what doesn't suck and what isn't terrible is this diecast because it actually looks really good. This is probably the best Kasey Cain throwback they've ever done. I guess they had to give him a farewell paint scheme that was pretty good. Last year's Cain throwback, I'm trying to even remember what he ran last year, if he ran a throwback at all. It wasn't very memorable if I can't remember it off the top of my head. I usually remember 3 or 4 throwbacks a year, the really good ones, and then the kind of middle of the road to kind of lousy ones you kind of forget about pretty quickly. But this one won't be a forgettable one because it is a very nice looking paint scheme. I think this is the only car. I remember when I did the blowover challenge series, and I did one at Charlotte. This paint scheme has the distinction of being the only one to have done anywhere close to a blowover at Charlotte in the hands of Bodine, unless you count Ricky Bobby, in which case there have been 2 blowovers at Charlotte, Ricky Bobby and Brett Bodine. Anyway, here is the hood that you get. Pretty nice looking. You do get the white 5 on there, which isn't anywhere on the car, so an exclusive color of that number. And then again on the back, which is interesting because it's like yellow hood, white back. Pretty neat. I do want to mention, while I'm thinking about it, all of these cars feature the brand new lower spoiler. I think that kind of finally took effect in the summertime with these diecast, and pretty much I haven't seen the high spoiler in quite a while. So that's good. I'm glad they've finally gotten that ironed out. They got it ironed out just in time for the Chevy SS to be irrelevant, because they're going to have the Camaro next year, which is kind of funny because it looks like they're going to have Camaros out for the Daytona 500, which kind of makes me a little bit annoyed because it always seems to take so long to get the Toyota molds out every time Toyota changes their car. But gall darn it, the Chevys are going to be out as soon as the Daytona 500 happens. Is there a little bit of bias in Lionel? Maybe they need to watch my Toyota's video about NASCAR. Anyway, yeah, we'll check that video out if you want to watch me rant about Toyota's dominance in NASCAR. And no, I don't rant in a negative way about it. But we're talking about Toyotas, and we should be talking about this great Clips car. It is great, and it does clip along very well. I do like this quite a bit. I like the star on there, and it's just very 70s. Very, very 70s. And that's what you want in a throwback, something that kind of reminds you of the thing that it's trying to emulate. And none of those cars do it any better, in this wave at least, than the car we are about to take a look at next. Oh yeah, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s AC Delco Throwback. One of 2 incredibly iconic schemes that Dale Jr. ran in the early part of his career. Now, obviously, this is kind of the team that launched him into the Cup Series. He also won an Xfinity Series championship. Now, this is going to really confuse me because the series is now called Xfinity. I already did it. The car is a nationwide car, throwing it back to a Busch car. I don't know if anybody has thought of that yet, but God Almighty, I'm going to be confused I'm going to be like the Busch series, the nationwide, the Xfinity, yeah. Junior owns cars in the Xfinity series. He's running a nationwide car, throwing it back to a Busch series car. I'm surprised that confusion did. If that confusion was out there, I completely missed it because it just seems like, what in the world is going on with this? But it is a very nice looking scheme. I do remember when they revealed this that everybody got really, really triggered because they were expecting a different scheme. And I think you know what scheme that is. And it was just like, oh boy. They were like, everybody was like trying to burn, like they were getting their pitchforks and torches out. And it was like, why are you mad about this? Would you rather have them like brought the Gray Ghost back out or something? I mean, why, So I guess Dale Jr.'s last season, they had a couple opportunities to run throwbacks, and you still got the scheme you wanted eventually, didn't you? So I don't know. It's here's the hood, by the way. Nationwide is on your side. You had to do it. Dale Jr.'s throwback is kind of cool. Now it's a very simple scheme because, of course, it's kind of throwing it back to those days in NASCAR when Dale Sr. ran the black car, Jeff Gordon ran the rainbow car. Ricky Rudd ran the yellow or the orange car. Terry Labonte was in yellow. Dale Jarrett was in blue. Ricky Rudd, Kenny Irwin was in black. I mean, I miss when paint schemes were just like a simple, like a primary color. They ran it the entire year, and for the most part, I mean, obviously there were like alternate paint schemes, but you knew what driver was in what car. And when you watched a Busch race, you knew that this was Dale Jr. Eventually it became, who was that other guy? The guy who flipped over in that big one. I think LaJoy drove this car, but that was before Jr. So, no, it was Hornaday. Hornaday drove this car, and then it wasn't Kasey Atwood. I'm going to be thinking about that. Mike it wasn't Borkowski. It was Mike something. But there were quite a few drivers of this car. Skinner was one of them. Hornaday was another. Dale Sr. actually ran one of these cars in Japan one time. And obviously Dale Jr. was the guy that everybody remembers for it because, of course, it's Dale Jr. and he's Redneck Jesus. But, yeah, this is a very nice looking car. One I definitely wanted to add to the collection and very happy it's in it. But this was not the only throwback that Dale Jr. ran. And I'm probably going to spoil this in the thumbnail, so it's not going to be a huge surprise. But the paint scheme that everybody wanted when this diecast or when this paint scheme was released, everybody was expecting and begging for a Budweiser tribute, and we eventually did get it at Homestead, Miami. But it was like one of those things that everybody was worried wasn't going to happen for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to get into them. I will just say this, 2 words, Teresa Earnhardt. And I'll let the comments fill you in on the rest of it. But regardless, they managed to do a tribute to Dale Jr.'s 2000 Rookie of the Year car. Now, the cool thing about this is, it's kind of the Steve Park looking, like they kind of took Steve Park's Pennzoil scheme and pretty much took the yellow out and made it red. It's very much not the kind of iconic scheme that it became in 2001 when they kind of turned the E back a little bit. Kind of this black striping kind of changed quite a bit between 2000 and 2001, and then eventually, by the time Dale Jr. was really successful or popular, I guess I should say, in NASCAR, most of this black striping was pretty much gone, and it was pretty much just a red car. What's cool is finally we got the name rail right. As you can see, no name rail on this car, but we did get it on this 164, so at least they're finally doing it. This is obviously a Gold Series car. It's not a NASCAR Authentics. However, there is one coming out in the NASCAR Authentics. So if you, for some reason, haven't bought this car yet, you will have an opportunity later on down the line. And it's just a beautiful car. It's almost like an obligation. If you had if you paid attention at all to NASCAR in the 2000s, it's almost an obligation to buy this car. Very historical, and obviously it's great that Axalta was the one to kind of send it off. Obviously, for a while there, when Axalta was DuPont, I suspect many Dale Jr. fans would not have wanted anything to do with a DuPont car, but it kind of brings those two fan bases together. It kind of has ever since Dale Jr. went over to Hendrick Motorsports. But it's just kind of interesting to kind of see essentially a DuPont Budweiser 88. I mean, there are times that if you had said that to me in 2004, I would have gone, ha ha ha, you're an idiot. But now, it's a different world, and it's one without Dale Earnhardt Jr. racing in the Cup Series. However, he is racing in some Xfinity races next year. For some reason, nobody wants to talk about that when they're like, Dale Jr.'s done. He's not really done, though. What's interesting is this Axalta logo in this 88, they're actually kind of gray. In fact, it's all gray. All the white is gray. You know what? I think that's how they got away with doing this. They changed the white to gray for the sponsor logos and numbers and whatnot. That was very clever of them. I can't imagine how many lawyers looked over this. Are we going to get sued by Teresa? Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame that Budweiser... I know Budweiser did that tribute video to Junior, but it would have been nice if we would have gotten a legit Budweiser car with all the DEI stuff all over it. But this is as good as we were going to get, and it is pretty awesome. So let's go in for some final thoughts, and I'll give them to you. So there you go, pretty much all the Hendrick Motorsports throwbacks for the 2017 season. Which of these cars are your favorite? Which of these are you picking up? Have you found the Toys R Us wave? Did they put it out like they did for Rob without the box? Let me know down in the comments and hit the like button if you did enjoy this. Thank you guys so much for watching this. This has been David Land on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video.